Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this News Now Health Update with Lisa Gibalerio, Director of the Belmont Wellness Coalition. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Joanna.
Last time we met, you and I discussed teen mistakes. Today, we're exploring another common theme, defiance. Most parents will likely struggle with their teens' attitude or behavior at some point. So, Lisa, help us understand what is meant by teen defiance.
So, defiance is referring to a spectrum of behaviors, usually frustrating for the parents. Things like a kid refusing to do their homework, or refusing to go to bed, or being unwilling to put down their phone. Those are kind of what, typical. Also, it can include more risky behaviors. Kids who won't wear helmets, who refuse to put on their seatbelts, who basically just ignore the rules that parents set out at home. And, we see kids become argumentative, obstinate when it's time to do the things that parents would like them to do, or any authority figure, really. So, defiant behavior is a natural part of adolescent behavior. However, it can be really challenging for parents and for teens.
You mentioned what parents might expect to see. What are some signs of teen defiance?
Well, if they are consistently irritable, argumentative, showing resentment to parents or authority figures, also just, rule breaking, being dismissive, and maybe having angry outbursts.
So, given that some of this is expected among this age group, help us understand what is typical versus more concerning behavior.
So it is developmentally appropriate for kids to sometimes challenge parents or sometimes be really moody or argumentative. However, when we talk about a defiance disorder, what we're talking about is consistency. Kids who are really deliberately defying parents, deliberately defying teachers, refusing to follow even the most basic rules that are set out at home. These kids sometimes provoke others. They don't take responsibility for their own behavior. So I would say those sets of characteristics are what we're talking about when we're talking about like oppositional defiance disorder.
Okay. What advice can you offer parents who might be experiencing this?
Well, I would say that parents, even though it's really hard to do, need to set consistent, clear, and firm boundaries. They need to also, validate their kids' perspective, spend some time listening to their child. I would also say, Joanna, that this is hard for a lot of parents, but they need to allow for natural consequences. So if a child doesn't, refuses to do their homework, then they need to deal with the consequences of that at school. Parents should not be swooping in to save them from, perhaps a bad grade. I would also say that if the behavior does become, again, consistently disruptive, unsafe, parents may need to seek professional help because what happens with typical defiance is that tends to happen at home. But oppositional defiance disorder, teens are going to exhibit extreme behavior both at home, at school, maybe on the soccer field. So professional help can be really useful in navigating that.
That's good advice. Anything else for parents to know?
Well, again, just to underscore the point that some defiance is expected, right? They are teenagers. They are naturally going to grow apart from the family unit. They want to exercise that autonomy and exert some control over their decision making, over their lives. But as we said, if this is consistent and extreme and is becoming unsafe, then again, professional help may be warranted to kind of get through it.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Very good topic. Very good advice for parents.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time.